Welcome to my podcast. This is Mary Turderoff, and you are listening to Jump In with Mary. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I have this sweetheart couple, Chris and Yadira Kuzmicz. Chris is a firefighter. He has been for 22 years, which makes Yadira the very brave fire wife and companion. So let's just jump right in. Chris, what in the name of Jesus happened this month to Los Angeles? You were in the thick of it, and we're all still kind of shocked. It feels surreal, and we weren't even on ground zero. So can you just give us a glimpse of was your team ready for it? Did you guys see this coming? Did anybody see it coming?
So just to backtrack a little bit, with the history of the fire department, when we see certain weather conditions, we do augment staffing.
What is augment staffing?
That means we bring other people on board, just to make sure if something happens or there's an event that we have extra personnel that are available. So when we have wind events, brush fire season, right now we're thinking about the mudslides. There's things like that. We always have specialized units or we put together what are called strike teams of personnel ready to respond specifically for those types of disasters. So I'm not quite sure because I don't remember how that day occurred.
You were on duty that
I was
day,
on
right?
duty, yeah.
Okay.
So usually when there's augment staffing, it's available. You could sign up for overtime. You kind of do it. But I was already working, so I just kind of in my mind, whenever there's something going on, I just throw it in the back. I put, my gear together. I'm prepped for it, and whatever happens, happens. So just kind of a snapshot of kind of where I was in all of this. I was working at my regular station. I did get moved into the fire, so I was there at the inception. I was helping with extracting people, rescuing, evacuating people, as well as just being a part of the whole situation there for that sense. I was there till the next day. I was relieved of duty. And
Like in 24 hours?
Yeah, so I was there for about a day and a half, and they brought in other personnel at that point. They have this whole operation that they bring in as far as for these disasters. Not to get too detailed into it, but so they're pretty prepared, and they bring in a team. They set up a base camp, and they have people working all this stuff.
Where are you sleeping, by the way? You just said you were basically in a 1.5 day duty. Do you just sleep on the floor? I asked because there were, as a layperson, I see all these images of firefighters sleeping on the sidewalks, and you're just like, wow, is that happening?
So sometimes that happens, but the whole process, and we've learned over the years, is to create kind of like that base camp where maybe you're on 24 hours straight working, and then you have a rest period. And then from there, you're back into it.
But where are you resting? You're on duty.
And so with the base camp, they usually try to provide some kind of means of food. We have a logistics kind of setup, so they think about sleeping and things like that. But in all honesty, sometimes when you're out there, and I know from my past over the 22 years, there are times where we just pulled on the side of the road and laid right on the dirt, and we're just we're so exhausted. So there is with the inception of a lot of these disasters, you're just trying to make means, trying to maybe get food at some point, maybe a 20-minute cat nap, trying to, recover at some sense, but you're working pretty hard. And I know for this day, I was specifically on the ambulance that day because I'm a paramedic as well. And I was charged with medical, so I was in medical staging. And we just slept in the rig, in our seats, and just we took turns listening to the radio and going out on calls and going out there. If we had an incident, we'd go in and, extract somebody. We were also there for firefighter injuries. People were getting hurt too because it's mass chaos with people evacuating. You have cars that can't see, they're going through the smoke. People might get hit by, I'm not going to say exactly, to identify the things that happen to specific people for HIPAA, but you could get hit by a car or
we saw the car pileups on TV.
Yeah.
They were just smushed together, and I imagine people had to be dragged out.
And I was driving through all that. It was in my 22 years, it was the worst thing I've ever seen. We had trash cans that were completely on fire flying through the air, hitting our rig. We have high tension wires flying around on the street.
Wow.
You have fire all around you. Embers. You can't see past the hood of your vehicle. I mean, it was absolute chaos. So I was there in the beginning to help with that until they brought everybody in and had like more of a formal, national emergency and went from there. And then I just got off of a 12-day stint of being deployed. And I was there at the end helping with repopulation, helping people dig through the rubble, trying to find some kind of heirloom or something just to kind of give them some kind of keepsake. Like one couple, I helped them dig through the rubble just to find a piece in the concrete where they had built a house because they had their little girls had put their handprints and they just want to go back and cut that out.
So sad.
So you see a lot of the heartbreak. And then at the same time, I was on what's called a brush patrol unit. So I'm hiking the ridges and through all the containment areas and looking through the perimeter for hotspots. And even just this last week after the first rain, we had mudslides in some areas and the mud covered a lot of that duff. And as soon as you get to these hotspot areas, and you sink your shovel, you got embers and flames starting up again. So, you think 3-4 weeks later, you think it's out, but we still have active fire. And so we use drones with infrared and kind of confirm the containment areas. And so there's a lot of work that goes into it to ensure the safety of the citizens and for them to come back and repopulate.
For sure. And that's an interesting point. Actually, Yadira brought up when we were chatting on the phone. All of us who don't know too much, we're so excited that it started raining. Yay, it's over. And no, there was mudslides. We didn't really think of that. Yeah. Well, the average person didn't think of that. And it's raining today. Mm-hmm. And by the way, can you define or explain in simple terms, what are hotspots? Like, what does that mean?
So just basically through the brush area, just kind of simply put, there's areas that are still smoldering, like a lot of the trees, like the roots are still smoldering underground. Okay. Areas that are just hot, maybe just still, if they get the right introduction of oxygen and wind,
it's like the root of a tree.
Yeah.
Could be small. Okay.
Yeah. And so we're concerned about those embers coming out and maybe starting another fire and brush that hasn't started up again, but is dried out from all the winds in the fire, or nearby structures. We had, some structures had some things still smoldering and just didn't have the right, reaction with the environment and the wind. And so if it opened up enough, it would definitely start a fire again. And so we just want all the residents to feel safe when they're going back, because that's really important. Not only are we there for life safety and structure protection, but also just a sense that they feel safe, because that's what we do is we provide that for the citizens of Los Angeles.
Thanks for, giving us a breakdown of that. So I want to shift gears a little bit. I mean, you mentioned you were gone for like a 12-day shift, and at home you have a beautiful wife who's holding down the fort with a lot of kids, 4 kids living with you guys, 2 older daughters that are, off doing their own thing. But nonetheless, you're a family of 8. Yadira, how did you hold? I thought me being wife to my husband when he's gone for 2 days is hard. Like, seriously, when this was happening, I know it's kind of nice sometimes to have like space, but when he's gone and this is, a national issue, what were you thinking? Were you like getting phone calls from him? Did you guys have access to one another by phone? Was he just off the radar? And were you having a meltdown? Real talk.
We've been married. Well, let's back up a little bit.
Back up.
I am always impressed just hearing him speak. I always, I see him in his uniform. These are things that I forget, that the public sees him as a hero. And right. I'm with him all the time. And I know he does this. And I forget. So when I hear him speak, I'm just like, oh,
that's such a good
hero.
point. That's sweet.
He really is cool.
And then you get home and you're like, here are your chores.
Yeah.
Here's
great hero.
Heavy-do list. But back to what you were saying. He did call me. He would keep me informed of where he was, what he was doing.
Because the power lines were down too. So I'm wondering if you got in the thick of this, you had connection?
Somewhat. It was very, very limited, especially with the terrain there. It was very difficult. A lot of areas are even our own radios were having difficulty.
So when he had service,
Starlink
he would
or other
me.
things that were set up, people were very gracious. in our society to help us out with those things. It was like, okay, we have somewhat of a sense to call home or figure out the necessities and say, hey, look, this is what's going on, so that she's aware, like, hey, you might not see me for a while, or who knows, but
I mean, we've been married for a pretty long time. I remember in the beginning of our marriage, he would go off on deployments.
Did that take some adjustment?
It took adjustment, but I was also a single mom, so I
Yeah.
was used to being alone.
Right.
So it just worked out when he was gone, but just it did take a lot of adjusting and just getting used to it. It's not easy. It's scary. It's nerve-wracking because when I don't hear from him, I'm just wondering what happened.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the news say firefighter got injured
Right.
or so-and-so, whatever accident, fire happened. I start to question and wonder, I haven't heard from him. Could it be him?
Yeah.
Anybody in his station? Anybody we know?
That's devastating. Do you watch the?
I don't.
I was gonna
watch
say
any news. I don't.
it's probably a little healthier for
just-
you,
yeah.
for your mental well-being.
And I have to keep it together because the kids get
Right.
scared. The kids get anxious and they miss dad and they worry. So I have to kind of keep it together at home so that they feel safe.
Yeah. What are the ages of the 4 kids at home?
15, 13 next week, 9, and 4.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So he's gone. He's, saving the world. You guys are home, and the kids obviously have access. I mean, all these kids, even my 3-year-old, knew what was going on. Did they have any, I don't want to say trauma, but little anxiety about,
They do. They do.
and they know dad is there.
Yeah.
Where
I have to remind them that dad's doing his calling. This is his calling. This is his job. He's got experience, and we have to trust that. We have to trust his experience of 20 plus years of doing this.
When I do call home, usually the conversation is, hey, I'm just letting you know I'm okay.
Yeah.
So it's not
I'm
a
fine.
long. What did
I'm
you
not
do today?
hurt.
Not a long one.
It usually is like a 5-minute call. It's like, hey, I'm okay. I'm here. This is basically what I'm doing right now. And this is my expected return date, and
Wow.
it kept changing over this last one because it was like, I might be gone for 5 days or whatever, but I should be expected to be gone for 14 days when I go on
Wow.
a deployment. So I always start out with the worst, like, hey, I might be gone 14 days, but they're expecting me to be done in 5 days. And then here I am, like, it just, the situation always adapts to what's going on. So
Yeah, the calls are quick.
yeah.
Kids, hi, Dad. How are you? Everything
That's
okay?
sweet.
Yeah.
How are the fires? And he's just like, everything's good. I'm good. We're safe. How are you?
And I
Yeah.
think that
You know.
makes it easier emotionally, that I don't give them space or time to ponder
Go
on
on
that
it, yeah.
emotion. That way they just know, oh, dad's good. He's working. He's doing his thing,
Yeah.
whatever, because if I sit there and start with the emotional stuff, then I could see their anxiety really build up.
Yeah.
It feels like, again, I'm an outsider. I don't have siblings or husband in this industry, but it feels like something really interesting happened in our society culture. All this time, firefighters have been our heroes. There's been so much happening. They're always there. And actually, firefighters are known to be like the nicest, sweetest people ever. I have literally never met a firefighter. I mean, in my area, a couple areas I've visited the station for charity. I have never met a rude, standoffish one. I really haven't. Okay, so going back to my point. But something kind of interesting happened. There is so much highlight now and appreciation and acknowledgement of firefighters, which is great. But it kind of made me think all these years and all this time, that spotlight wasn't really shed on them. Not that we didn't appreciate them. It just seems to be at the forefront of society now, all of a sudden, almost overnight. And you see these posts, like one that really hit home with me. You posted and then I reposted. Something along the lines of, firefighters should be paid the way basketball players are paid.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's right. So I don't know. It feels interesting to me. You guys have been there. You have been there doing this for 22 years. And I'm sure there have been days that were just as challenging or dangerous. Anything could have gone wrong. Anything can go wrong on any given day. Even if it's not an episode like this. But still, what does that feel like? I mean, there's so much, I don't know what to call it, spotlight. Does the shift feel... It feels a little interesting. There's a big contrast, I feel.
I think if you were to kind of survey and in general look at the mindset of a firefighter or paramedic, most of us don't do it for the money. We do it because we love it. We love the culture. We love the service. We want to be a part of this. It's a family. There's all these subsets of why we do it, but usually money is not at the forefront of any of that. Obviously, we do make an income. We have to provide for our families. But specifically for me, I don't look at my job as like it's work. I look at it as it's my service to society. It's my calling. I love to do it. I love to be there. For me, the reward is being there and actually saving somebody's life or being a part of, something where I can help somebody or I'm the shoulder to cry on or whatever it is. I like being that pillar of society where people can depend on me. And I think most firefighters have that innately inside them where they just want to be a part of something bigger than themselves and want to give back in a sense. And I think that's why maybe your interactions in the past have been, so good is because we do this because we love it, not because we're looking at an entitlement sense of like, what can we get out of it? And I think that's what's created our culture and what's so attractive about it and why people want to do it. So if that kind of answers your question.
That's a good point. It makes sense because like a lot of people like, I couldn't be a doctor, so I became a lawyer. It's like a default. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like that when I talk to any firefighter. But at 19, you went into this at 19. You knew at 19, this is your calling?
Yeah. So I started to kind of backtrack when we were in school together. Yeah. We went to high school together. I was already volunteering. I was an explorer. I was a part of it. I was putting my hours in. So
as a minor,
as a minor, and I was getting my schooling done. I was going to college in the evenings, taking the classes I needed, getting my EMT, doing everything I could because I knew that's what I wanted to do. Because I had great mentorship, which was helpful, and being a part of that culture at such a young age and seeing how attractive it was to me, I wanted to do everything I could to get there. So I didn't even apply to college, to be honest. I knew this is what I wanted to do. I knew it was a part of me. And so I just put all my effort into it. And fortunately, as time progressed after graduating, I was fortunate enough to start when I was 19 as a firefighter paramedic with the city. So I've been able to do this for so long. And, it's been the greatest ride for me. I mean, I couldn't see my life any other way. I mean, we always say in our job, this is the best job in the world.
Oh, that's so nice.
And we always say that to each other because we get to do the most cool things. I feel like a kid sometimes at work, dealing with, riding a fire truck and, getting to wave to kids sometimes or just being there and, helping grandma, whatever she is. Yeah. There are times where somebody just needs a hand to hold and it's not so much of their medical need or what's going on, but we'll go over and fix things for them in their home, make them a sandwich or something and just go on about our day. But we know we made that difference because that's what they needed to have some hope to move on in life.
Wow. Years ago, he sent me a video where they went to a lady's house for whatever medical reasons. And he ended up playing the piano.
Oh my gosh.
The lady was just singing hymns and Chris just played the piano for her. And that's what she needed.
Wow.
She needed people to be there with her.
Yeah. What a story.
I've never forgotten. This was probably over 10 years ago.
Yeah. There's a lot we do that
so
people
many
don't
little things
see,
that they do.
But we do it because we love to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's such a human element to it. Yeah. That's a really unique story. I bet she keeps calling now to get you to visit her.
I don't know where she is now, but I remember that. Yeah, I didn't take the video, but it just happened to get passed around.
His partner took a video at that time because it was so sweet.
That's really
just the moment.
Sweet.
Of course, she wasn't in the video.
Right.
Yeah.
Just took a video of him, and you can hear her singing in the background. It was the sweetest. I've never forgotten. It's been a few different times.
That's really special. What is it? Educate me. The paramedic and firefighter. So you basically have a dual role.
Mm-hmm.
That's not common. Most people.
So,
is it common?
Yes and no. So the fire service on the West Coast is more so. They've created that dual function, and we call it dual function actually.
And you need a separate degree for each one?
Yeah. So as a firefighter, you're playing that role as a firefighter. You're mitigating risk in that sense, whether it's, structure fires, whether it's rescues, as far as like, technical type stuff, traffic accidents, auto fires, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You're in that sense mitigating those risks. But as paramedic, I had to go to a separate school. So I first had to get my EMT, get some experience, apply for paramedic school, go through paramedic school. And then I have that license where now I can operate. So I can do advanced life support. So I do advanced med. So a lot of things that a doctor would do in the ER, like as far as medications they push, defibrillating, all that kind of stuff, advanced airways. We do a lot of that stuff in the field. So it's almost like a mobile ER that we do in the field to do life-saving measures, stabilize them, and then take them to the hospital. And within the fire service, I'd say that at least 80% of it is EMS, emergency medical services. So here on the West Coast, I know a lot of departments, they have dual function where they provide the fire service, but also the medical side. You see a lot of departments across the nation. It's either fire, either EMS. And here we have the unique role to be able to provide all services. So we there's like a saying, we're called the uh-oh department. When somebody says uh-oh, like we're there, we're providing whatever it is, we can handle it. And I think that's unique as far as even with my department, is that when you call 911, whatever's going on, we show up, we can handle anything that's going on.
That's incredible.
Outside of, law enforcement, we can do anything that needs to happen. And we bring the cavalry, we have all the tools, we have everything we need, we have all the medications, we can make anything happen to make sure that we mitigate that risk. And I love that about our department, because just you say, uh-oh, and we're there, and it's done. And you can just sit back, relax, no stress, and let us handle it.
Okay, so since you are the expert of let's shift gears to your family life.
Yes.
What happens, let's say, if wife has an or her leg hurts, or the kids have a emergency? Do you play it down, or do you run to their beckoning call?
I mean,
talk about the reality of you get a little numb because not numb, but a little immune because you see a lot. It's very natural, right?
Numb is the right word.
Okay, Yadira, take the floor.
Take it. I'll let her answer that one.
Take it from
and I'll add to it, maybe.
He's really
just
hands off. He's really hands off. Very hands off. If the kids get injured, he's like, are they moving? Are they breathing? Is it bruising right away? There's he goes through a list of, he's got a checklist.
Bleeding profusely.
Are they bleeding? How bad are they bleeding? Especially if he's at the fire station and they have accidents, which in fact we have had a couple incidents.
What do you mean?
One was when the kids have had accidents.
At the fire station?
Not at the fire station. When he's working and I'm home.
Okay.
For instance, our 15-year-old was in a bad car go-kart incident, and we were in New Mexico.
Wait, hold on. She was in LA and the two of you were gone. No.
He was at work here in LA. I went to visit one of my oldest daughters.
Okay.
For a birthday party, and we were in New Mexico.
Okay.
Let's clarify that.
So wait, the 15-year-old was also in New Mexico with you?
We were me with all the kids, and he was at
Dad
home.
was
he was
here
working.
in LA. Okay.
He worked, I think, for 6 days straight because we were gone.
Okay.
So she had an accident
in New Mexico.
I didn't know what to do. We never call 911 because we are not that kind of family.
Well, you have the department in your home.
We do, but we don't use those services.
Right. Okay.
Because we already know how to take care of things at home. But this time I said, this happened. She broke her leg. What do? Do I drive her there or do I call an
Drive her where?
ambulance?
Like
to
the hospital in New Mexico?
To the hospital, sorry.
Okay.
To the hospital because she broke her leg. She shattered her heel. It was terrible. She was wearing a helmet, which saved her life.
Yowzers.
So yeah, that was one. He just said, well, if you can't pick her up and drive her to the hospital, call an ambulance. So we had to do that.
So he talked you through it, basically.
He talked me through it. I was freaking out.
But you know what? That's a
that.
great example of the epitome of being a fire wife, which obviously has all of its perks. But there are moments where you have to call the medical shots or, I mean, you got to pull the trigger and figure it out.
Yeah. And he always helps me. Any incidents I have or with the kids or my car, I'm always like, hey.
Yeah.
Because he's my hero.
He's everyone's hero.
He's my hero.
She had a flat tire on the freeway the other day, and the tire blew, and she calls me stuck on the freeway in the middle of the center
freeway.
divider.
In the center divider.
And she calls me, and here I am, just a few exits away on another traffic accident, and she's like, "What do I do?" And
like you're on duty.
I'm on duty on a call at another traffic accident, like just a few miles down the freeway. And she's like, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well,
I've never had a flat."
The freeway service patrol guys there. I'm like, "Hey, my wife's stuck over there. Can you go back and help her out?" And he's like, "Yeah, you know."
Oh, how convenient! Look at all these perks you're getting there.
For some reason, it always just works out.
It always works out.
The universe is watching out for you guys because
Yeah,
you're
always
angels.
does.
That's awesome.
I never have like flat tires or.
Yeah,
he's always there.
Always there.
He's just there.
Even though he's deployed 300 days a year, he's always there. But that's so interesting, right?
Yeah, he's
That's
always there.
incredible.
And I just feel like at home, me being with the kids when he's gone, just hearing him, it really comforts me. And then everything's okay.
That's beautiful.
Because when things are like chaos outside, I have my little chaos going on at home. And then the kids freak out. The kids are... These last 12 days that he was gone, the kids just started the last 3 days.
Like acting
They were
out?
just acting up, throwing tantrums. And I just called him. I said, hey, you need to come home. These kids are just acting up. He's like, okay, a few more days. Just hang in there, a few more days.
Wow.
And then just him talking to the boys, saying, hey, you guys got to behave. Everything's good. I'll be home. It helps.
And a shift. You guys have such
changes
a
everything.
Synergetic marriage. You guys are like a team. You're not a married couple. You're also a team.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel like he is there's bad cop, good cop in every family. Sounds like he's like the, are they like,
I am the
he's the lay down the law.
He is the enforcer.
Yeah. And then we're scared because they see you every day. I'm always screaming. Nobody cares. I'm screaming all the time because I'm home with them all the time.
Yeah,
I'm very regimented. I can be militaristic
at home,
at work and at home because work is very much paramilitary, and so I do bring that home. But I have to remember to turn that off.
Is it easy to turn it off?
So initially it wasn't, but over the years I've really come up with a good sense of leaving work at work. But I do have my character and like my personality. So I do carry that and I'm not going to change that because I'm proud of who I am. But I also know that I can't talk to a guy I work with or a patient the same way I talk to my kids. And so I've learned over time how to do that. But it did take some time.
It took some time.
It took a lot. But I've learned to compartmentalize it. I've learned not to take it home because in all honesty, there's every day I go to work, I'm dealing with somebody's chaos. Yeah. And so my threshold and my level of what's bad or what's good or whatnot is completely different than what's going on in the home. Right. So I've learned that I need to have a different litmus test when I go home. And I need to approach it a little bit differently.
But how do you do that? Okay, now let's do a play-by-play because sometimes you just have, 20, 30 minutes of a gap between finishing a shift and getting home. And that's kind of short time, right, to re-compartmentalize and get yourself to shift to kind, mellow daddy who just got home.
This is where she shines.
Or does she lock you up in her room and give you...
No, this is where she shines. And we have a really good routine at home because when I come home, she gives me time to digress. She doesn't talk to me when I get home. Okay. When I get home, I do my thing. When I'm ready for breakfast or whatever, I do that.
Breakfast is ready.
and that's the one thing I love about her is she cooks for me every day.
Oh,
and I like.
Yadira, you're making the rest of us look awful, girl.
But-
No,
but
that's what I do at home.
I tell her, I say, you do that and I'll handle everything else.
Wow.
Because that's what I need.
That fills your cup.
It fills my cup. Just that one hot meal just fills my cup and I'll do whatever she asks.
It's more than one hot meal.
But I mean, like
3 meals a day, I
three
think.
meals.
but
a
I do
day.
get home.
That's a lot of
and
work.
She doesn't even talk to me. She doesn't bring stuff to me right away. She'll let me kind of have my moment. Might take half an hour or so. And then when I'm ready, I kind of come out of like my mental cave. And then she'll even ask me sometimes, hey, I got some stuff to talk to you about. You know, like, hey, the kids' birthdays.
When you're ready.
When you're ready, I got to talk to you about the kids' birthdays because we're going to do this, 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 this. And I'm like, oh, hold on a second. I'm not ready yet. And she'll go, okay. And she'll circle back in half an hour and I'm ready. And then we sit down and talk. And so she gives me that space to really
you make it sound like I
debrief.
completely ignore you.
No. The way it sounds to me is you have a very sophisticated, open line of communication.
We do.
Oh,
we do.
absolutely.
He comes
Like-
home, good morning, hugs, kisses, and then breakfast.
Like you guys are a role model
then he
for
just-
every marriage that's aspiring for. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
But
He needs that time.
But we've had, 18 years to come together and say, this is what we need.
Yeah.
And we've spent the time investing in our marriage where we can say, hey, this is what I need. This is what you need.
right.
How can we make this work together? And
yeah,
Yeah.
that does not happen by itself. I was just thinking that.
It was not that
doesn't.
simple in the beginning. I mean, there were times where our marriage was so on the rocks.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah,
very hard.
I mean, there are times where we're like ready to
Yeah.
split or whatever, but it was like, okay, are we going to invest and fight for this, or are we going to,
Yeah.
Just quit.
just quit?
100%.
And I think we're both stubborn enough not to quit.
Yeah.
And so it just somehow worked out, and now we're in a place where it functions. And we had to
Yeah.
get through all that, and we just had to chisel off all that extra stuff, and then now it's a fine piece of art. So.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
It works.
This
We
is
make
turning
it work.
into a love episode.
Aw.
Yeah.
It was a fire episode, but
And
it's
Valentine's is around the corner.
now. I'm sure he has a lot of things planned.
No, he doesn't. We don't set. Are you working? for Valentine's? I don't even know what the schedule is like.
I'm taking it off.
But
See?
my birthday's the 15th.
Oh, this month?
Yeah.
Yes, this
oh my
month.
God.
We have what, 5 birthdays
it's
in
a
the
lot
next
of
week.
birthdays.
You're kidding. In your family?
Mhm.
Yes.
In 1 week?
Yeah,
In
so I
1
took
week.
the
That's
week. I
overwhelming,
took the
guys.
week off to be
It's a lot.
home.
Nuts.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Geez, Louise, that's a lot in
Yeah.
1 week.
In 1 week.
But hers is going to be
Yeah.
the highlight.
I
Yeah.
hope so.
But
No,
and
you know what? I'm
credit
so
to-
used to just us being home. I honestly
You
don't
enjoy
even
it
want to do
more.
anything because I'm so busy doing the other kids' birthdays. My
Yeah.
twins were born on my birthday, so I have to cater to them too, which I love. I love to do it.
Yadira, you have 6
But
kids. You are like the queen
I'm-
of the world. You
I'm
cater
not.
to
I'm
6
really not.
kids.
No,
I can't even
stop.
cater to
Thank you.
3. I'm pulling my hair out. You have double.
No,
Double.
So just being home with him and just being with the kids that's
yeah.
it. Just let me relax. I
No,
want to
that,
sleep until 12.
no, that's but what you mentioned about, chiseling it and figure it's so
Mhm.
special because I've been in the same boat. You guys were together very young,
Mhm.
right? You
Mhm.
met her when you were 16?
18.
18. Okay. So Sergey and I met when he was 16, I was 15. So with that comes like a lot of change, a lot of growing apart. First of all, you can't possibly be the same person you were at 18 years old. So she had to tolerate some of those changes and shifts and vice versa.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so nice to sit here and look at a couple who's been together decades, say, wow, like you can come full circle,
Yeah.
have the moments where I've been there in my marriage where you're like, maybe we throw in the towel, but then you kind of full circle, you hit rock bottom and then you make your way to the top.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think if I were to say anything about our marriage that's been really good is we've always had the idea that we got to be each other's biggest cheerleader. So if there's something I want to do or something she wants to do, I'm like, go for it. I'm not going to tell her just because we're married doesn't mean she can't do something. Like she loves to go on cruises with her girlfriends.
I love cruises, Yadira.
And
Yes,
so
let's go.
I'm like, give me the dates. I stay home, take care of the kids, and I send her off. I'm
But
like,
how does this firefighter schedule work? Because I'm wondering. So if you book it early enough, right?
I can trade my days
You
around.
can trade your days and swap it with other people.
Unless something catastrophic happens.
Okay, so something like what happened in LA. But other than that,
Yeah.
outside of that, I'm just trying to understand what is it like to be in the life of the both of you?
It's very scheduled.
Okay.
Very scheduled.
That's not a bad thing, right?
It's not a bad
It makes
thing,
things
no.
happen because you have 4 kids living at home right now.
Because then the kids know when to expect dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, when she goes on a cruise.
I laugh because when I said when the kids, when they expect him to be home. So he mentioned he was very strict. That also goes with our food. So when dad
What
goes
does that
away,
mean?
he's very, very strict with the food that the kids eat.
Like no
we
junk
don't let
food.
them eat any junk food, sugars.
I'm
But
very
when-
strict health regimen.
So
There's
the
certain
kids
things I don't
see-
allow in the house.
So the kids see the work schedule. He's
And-
off, and they're like, "Mom, can we go to McDonald's?
And the hot Cheetos come
can
out."
we buy some cereal?"
And I come home and I just throw it away.
That's-
I don't even
It's
care.
usually gone
just-
by the time he comes home.
They-
'Cause I'm just like, Dad's gone party at the
Party time.
house,
There's M&Ms flying.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think you knew
But my
about that.
kids,
Yadira.
it's okay because Philip, my youngest, will be FaceTiming, and then he's just like, "Look, Dad, Mom got us some cereal."
That's so
And then I
funny.
give her the look. And then she's like,
I'm like, "Stop it!"
So definitely good cop, bad cop, but you need that contrast. You need that little push and pull. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. But I love the regimented thing. And I was just thinking you were, I grew up with a regimented father, and there's so much goodness to that because first of all, it gives you this real core feeling of stability.
Yes.
And tough love is great. These kids need some tough love.
Yes,
do.
This
they do.
babying, we don't baby so much. Maybe sometimes I was telling Yadira, my middle one, bumped into me, and then we thought he was faking a neck injury because it was a gentle bump. So I started to yell like, "Cut it out! It's not funny." Because I can't baby. It turned out to be a real injury, but can't baby every little thing. Like we will throw laundry at them and say, "Just go do it. Go figure it out."
The chores are important for them.
Are you guys are, I'm sure you're running a tight little
Mhm.
workshop,
They- yes.
a sweatshop at home.
They all have
They all have their
chores.
daily chores.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because it's important. And I try to follow things that are going to improve them for their life.
Yeah.
You know, I want them, what I'm investing in them now is so that it would last till they're my age and past that. And then they could pass it on to their kids. So I'm really big about that. I want them to do better than I did. And I'm very comfortable where I'm at, you know, in life. I'm very happy with what I've achieved, but I still have way bigger goals. But I want them to just do better. So everything I've taken in life and learned, I'm trying to compress it down and give it to them now. That way they can supersede everything I've ever done, and it's easier for them to get there.
That's
So-
beautiful.
He never stops.
I could
He
tell.
never stops. There's always something. If it's not firefighting, it's
It's planning your birthday.
planning birthdays or building a new apartment complex or
Wow.
Yeah, I have a lot of side
Buying-
gigs that I do.
he's got so many.
You know, I could tell going off of that because when I contacted you, he was deployed. And I thought, and you gave me his number. And in all honesty, I felt really uncomfortable reaching out to him. Not because of who he is, he's a very nice person, because I thought this guy is out there doing like God's work. And I'm texting him about a podcast interview and it's in Burbank. I really did. And that's why I kept texting you, even for
Yeah.
his email. I'm like, can you just give me his email? I don't want to bother him. This guy's doing serious stuff. It feels really selfish of me to expect that he's going to respond, right? And sure enough, he got off his shift early, and I get a call on my phone, and I see his name, and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe in the thick of the most unprecedented month in California or in the United States with these fires. He is calling me in this little gap of time he has. And it was so genuine, Chris. I just want to share that. I was humbled. I was so humbled. It felt confusing. Like, do I deserve his time on the phone? How can he make time for something like this?
Something
I just
that
wanna
I
say thank you.
really appreciate about him is that he knows when things are important to me and he prioritizes them.
Wow.
Of course, you know, he's going to be like these priorities, etc. But he knows if it's important to me, he's going to follow through.
Yeah.
No hesitations.
Yeah. And I think for me, with my life mission, if it's going to bring any hope or joy or betterment to anybody's life, I want to be about it because I'm here to serve and here to give. I'm not here to take.
Yeah.
And so like even you reaching out, I'm like, if it benefits your community, I'm there. Like it doesn't matter to me because I want to be a part of something, bigger than myself. So
I know I feel honored being here. I never thought I would be like
You're so
anybody wanting to hear me out.
Are you kidding me? You're the one with the real story. He's the fire husband, but you're the star of the show because you're also,
Yeah,
I believe that. You're holding down the fort. I believe that. I'll tell you why.
I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for her support and holding down the fort and doing everything she does because honestly, she makes it easy for me to do what I do.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to do what I do.
I truly believe that too.
I love him. I love our family. And if it's going to make him happy, I'm all for it.
But it's
like,
hard.
I'm his
It's
biggest
hard.
cheerleader.
And I want you to acknowledge that it's hard. I agree.
It is hard.
It is
it's
really hard to be in your seat. And I think a lot of nobody really talks about the fire wives. It's hard. Hearing about how he gets deployed at the drop of a hat and all the chaos and I mean, it's really hard. And you have these 4 demanding, needy children. It's like that can also send you, I guess I'm speaking for myself, into like a mental tornado.
It's tough. It can be tough. I had moments where I just showered and cried and I just gave myself 5 minutes and then
back to work
and just remind myself, I have to trust that God's protecting him. I have to trust that he has the experience to keep himself safe and while rescuing and protecting others.
For sure.
But
you
it can be tough.
You're like he was saying that he was ended up playing the piano for that one lady and because she needed that comfort and safe space. And I was just thinking, you're that piano player for him when he comes home. I don't know if you play the piano, but
I don't. He plays
I'm sure you sing and dance for him.
Yeah.
But it's all kind of like pay it forward and that's really cool. Any of the kids want to be firefighters? I'm just curious.
Or have something Hezzy said, one of our sons
this is
said that made
8-year-old?
Our 13. Soon to be 13.
Okay.
I asked him, what are your goals? Do you want to be a fireman one day? And he looked at me, he says, I miss Dad when we have Christmases or holidays, birthdays, because a lot of times he works those days.
Right.
So we celebrate on a different day. And he said, probably not. I want to be there with my family. I want to be there for my kids. But he admires him so much. He's just like, but it's still a possibility.
Yeah. And
so it's one of those the kids see.
But and it's also just to give him credit. He was also asked that question in a time of sheer chaos in Los Angeles. Yeah. I think like they take a snapshot, even my kids, of what happened these last 40 days. And like my kids still ask me, is our house going to burn down? So I'm just wondering if that also gave him a little bit of like, whoa, like
I didn't think
this
about
is a
that.
lot. This has never happened,
this is
you
a
guys.
lot.
Yeah, it's historic, really.
It's
is.
historic,
really
right?
Yeah. And to add to that, I know it's hard on them. And so I think I've learned over time that, I live by the mantra of like, I am wherever my feet are. And so when I'm home, it's like I'm home and I'm with them and I'm giving that quality time. And so I know that there are times where I miss stuff that's important to them. So I make sure that when I am home, like they have me and I don't want them to miss out and feel like they're missing out. So there is a lot of demand on me, obviously. But, then it's like I get to be home on those days off and spend that day and that time and really connect with him. And I think I've approached all of that much more intentionally than I would have if I didn't have this environment. So I think doing what I've done over the last 22 years has allowed me to be much more intentional.
I agree. And quality time is really quality time.
Absolutely.
It really
I agree
is.
with you because sometimes when you're with them a lot, you're checked out. It's doesn't mean much. So I could see that.
I spend the minutes with him talking about life, his goals, the things he wants to do, where he's at, what he's accomplishing, let him know what I'm proud of, the things that he can improve on. And, for me, parenting has come down to 3 things. It's basically loving and nurturing them and letting them have that safe place, And then also there's a discipline aspect. They need to have, discipline in their life, however that looks as a parent, for your kids. And then the next thing is just you have to spur them on. You got to be the encourager and you got to see their potential and push them towards it.
Yes.
And with that kind of simplified in my mind, when I'm home, those are the 3 things I'm trying to accomplish with them.
That sounds so intentional. Wow. You guys are intentional parents. Well, but let's talk about this. Let's go back to the cruise because I sure love me a cruise. And I love the idea that you go on all girls. I haven't done an all girls cruise, but it's okay. So she books all girls cruise. You get the time off in advance. I mean, you've done this before, right? Well,
we do it a lot.
So you've had all 4 kids.
Yeah.
So Yadira's gone. Now you got to take on Mr. Mom role. Didn't you want to pull your hair out, honestly? Didn't you think, man, I better go back to my job?
To be honest, I love it.
He runs a tight ship.
I run a tight ship.
You must be military status.
I am like, but I also know that like if the kids accomplish what I set for them, they also know like, there's time to work, time to play. And when it's time to play, we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a good time and we're going to, it's going to be about them. So they know if they accomplish that, life is going to be good at the end of it.
Wow.
Because not only are they going to feel better about themselves and what they've done, but also they realize that I'm acknowledging them. And now we get to enjoy life in a different aspect. And so I'm just trying to keep that like mindset of get your work done. Don't procrastinate. Get out of the way. And then let's just spend the quality time. And when she's gone, I think I have a good time. I don't know. You got to ask them. But
well, I was going to say, do they, sometimes when I'm gone, my husband will say, the kids act better when you're not gone. Like they're more, like when I'm there, I'm mom, so they know to be a little more loosey-goosey. They can get away with a little more. They whine more.
Yes.
And he said, when you're gone, because I was always worried that if I left with 3 kids, he would be overwhelmed. And then one day he said, it's actually a lot more overwhelming when you're standing in the corner watching.
The kids know. Kids are smart.
They shift gears, right?
Shift gears. They know who.
So I was wondering if they also shift a little bit and they know, okay, we have regimented firefighter daddy and we are going to follow the schedule.
Yes, they do.
That's
and they do great.
And I think it's that sense of like, you're not demanding something, but you're commanding it to them. And when you command and you lead them versus managing them, I see a different role for them and how they accomplish their life goals.
So how many times a year does this cruise thing go down? Give us ladies some.
I'm hoping 3 times a year.
Wow, go you.
I did one year.
One
year I did 3.
Go, girl.
And what's funny? I met the cruise I go on in September. It's every year. I've been doing it for
it's the same
9 years.
Cruise, same location.
It's the same cruise, same place with the same girls.
Okay.
And I met these girls on a cruise. And a couple of them are firewives.
But just by chance?
Just by chance.
Just by chance. We were on a cruise, family cruise. They were there. They were wearing the husbands were wearing their fire shirts.
They were there with their husbands.
They were there with their families, yeah.
Oh.
And you just know who's a fireman. They have this look.
Tell me. Well, how do you know?
You just know.
A look of
military, like
a military look?
Sometimes they have like the beard. They have to follow certain rules and criteria, and the hair has to be cut a certain way. It's just
My hair's long right now because
I've
been gone. I need a haircut.
It needs to be short.
It needs to be short.
You have to be clean cut.
And you can't have a beard, right?
Yeah, no, a mustache you can have, but there's a certain standard where it needs to be cut and
how
all that
long.
Kind of,
okay.
So.
You just know. And the way that they talk, the way that they stand, you just know who's military, who's police, who's fire. You know.
You know because you're in it.
I can tell because I'm in it. So at this one cruise, I saw them and one of them was wearing a Vegas fire. And I just was like, oh, you're a fireman. And that was it.
Wow.
The wives were there and we just hit it off. So now we go on a cruise every year.
I love that. And you guys just
in
deleted
September.
the husbands. And
he knows, it becomes a girls' cruise. And he knows every September he can't make any plans.
That's great,
It's my month. Do not plan
That's
your
your
trips.
self-care.
But he also goes on his own trips on his own.
You do the cruise thing too?
Not a cruise.
Mine's a lot more adventurous. I need a little bit more of an adrenaline rush. So I've done a lot of scuba diving around the world. I've been places.
And I don't know how to swim.
From
I don't scuba dive.
South Africa, throughout Asia. I was in the Maldives the other year.
Wow. With like
Papua
a team?
New Guinea. Yeah, there's a group of explorers that I travel with.
Wait, how do you find them? Online? Like you go on?
Just networking through my trips. I was certified as a scientific diver, so I got into the scientific community, as well as like this last year I did the Camino de Santiago. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
I have not.
I did 300-mile hike on my own for a couple weeks.
Pause. A 300-mile hike? Stop. Okay, give me a little information on how does that work? You have like what? How many? You go as a group? You train for this?
I went solo. I just basically packed a backpack and I bought a flight and I showed up. And I knew I wanted to start with point A and end at point B, and I just went with it. I didn't make any plans, and I just went for it. And she wouldn't do that.
We don't
either.
We can go on trips together.
I could sleep on a beach somewhere. I could sleep where I could care less.
No.
I just, for me, it's being out there and experiencing, that adventure. And really, I take a lot of what I have here built up, and that's where I leave
it there. I was just thinking that.
And that's what I do. And she's supportive with that. And so
she does the same on the cruise. It's different ways of self-care.
Yeah.
But the more extreme, the better for me. But I try to keep it within reason because I'm married with kids, so I don't want to do anything.
300 miles, you're pretty badass. I don't know if that's within reason. Like you are past the average person by all means, Chris. That's
he's done some pretty extreme stuff. He did Kilimanjaro one year.
You did Kilimanjaro?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
every year I've intentionally planned certain things, and so over the last since I've been 18, I've been doing several trips a year. That now after 20 plus years, I have this whole resume of things that I've done in life. And my kids even look at that. And
what a good example to the kids.
They're like, I want to do all these things, and I want them to know that, you work, but you got to enjoy life too. And there's a time for everything.
The kids are looking forward to learning how to dive so they can go diving together.
Yeah. So I travel quite a bit too.
And that's such an intentional and beautiful thing, because maybe you guys share the same way, but the way like Sergey and I grew up, it wasn't part of that generation of parents and culture. They were trying to survive. There was no such thing as hobbies. That
my
was
parents never did.
That was a little unheard of. My parents were immigrants. They were just trying to get from point A to point B.
My parents think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you going there for? What are you doing? And I'm
for sure.
I just don't even explain to them. I can't.
Right.
I just tell them I gotta go, and this is what I have to do. And
then they come to me. Why are you letting him go?
Yeah. Like, what's wrong with you?
Because he needs
but we do stuff as a family too. Don't get me wrong.
We do stuff.
We're the same. We do. We have the same repertoire in my family. But just going off the parents saying, "Are you crazy?" So I grew up with really traditional Armenian immigrant parents, and my mom would never leave the house with my dad. His slippers and his dinner's ready every day, right? And so when we got married, I've always done girls' trip. I lived on my own since I was 17. So I got married. I started doing girls' trips. And then my mom called me. She was just so flabbergasted and shocked. She was not joking. She called. She said, I want to talk to you. I'm very worried that if you go on the girls' trip was 2 days. It was like San Diego.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm really worried and afraid that Sergey is going to leave you. When you come back, I was like, after 2 days, I don't think so, Mom. She's like, this is just unheard of. Nobody does this. I said, you're living in the Ice Age, lady. I don't fight it. It's her life, and I respect whatever everyone has going.
I got not he's going to leave me. They said, why are you abandoning your children?
Oh, well, that's the number one reason I do it.
Leaving your children. Moms don't leave their children. Why would you?
Yes, they do.
I'm just like, oh.
It's such a big part of mental health.
I need this.
I come back and actually my spouse saw it too. Like it could take 2 days and I come back recalibrated. And that's
ready
really
to go.
important.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I miss my family.
Right.
I want to
be
a
there?
part of it again.
So how many days are these cruises? I'm very captivated.
They're just
3
weekend. It's a Friday to Monday.
Sometimes a week, but
sometimes very rarely. I do feel guilty if they're more than 5 days because after 4 days I miss my kids and I'm just like, oh.
But the first 2 days you don't remember.
I forget everybody existed. I forget I gave birth.
Yes, but it must be universal as women. The 3rd, 4th day I start to think about
And
them.
I'm just
It's
like,
nice
I
to have a
miss
family.
them. Yeah.
That's
What are they doing?
that's so cool. You
She'll
know,
call me on the cruise or
I do.
wherever.
Wherever
What's
I'm
going
at.
on? I'm like, why are you calling home? Go on your trip.
Yeah.
Don't call home. I got it. Like,
so you do check in the first
I
couple
do
days?
check in. I always
and I
check
said,
in.
stop checking in.
Okay,
Just
why-
go.
why do you
But
check
he
in?
never checks in. When he goes on his trips,
like him.
he's gone.
That's
he
how
never
I am.
checks in.
I
That's how
turn
I
the
am.
phone off because I have to.
I have
That's
to
the only
check
way
in.
I can,
You can shut it.
leave everything.
But why are you,
No,
are you
I
checking
have
in to
to
make
check
sure
in to
he's
make
doing
sure-
okay with
to
4
make
kids?
Yeah, to make sure the
Okay.
kids are good.
Okay.
Make sure that he hasn't like
Left.
left. No, that he hasn't like
Starve them.
military.
He's only feeding them protein. Will
He's
they
only
survive?
feeding them meat. He's a carnivore, so he does just feed them meat.
But that's good.
I
He's
do
great.
the carnivore diet.
He's
It's great.
right.
My mom, I have to make sure my babies are safe.
I just imagined you secretly leaving a letter for the kids to find like a bag of carbs somewhere.
They
under
know.
the
They
pillow.
know where my stash is.
Your
they know.
secret stash.
know.
Oh my God, it's so cool. I want to, I mean, you guys are so multidimensional, and I'm so sad this episode is only an hour, but I want to wrap up and end with how positive you guys are and a silver lining moment, because when Yadira and I, before the podcast, had a private telephone conversation without you in it, my instinct was, oh my gosh, like he's constantly deployed. You hardly see him, and this must be really catastrophic for the marriage. This is just my own, thing. And she said, actually, it's a really great setup. We make the best of it. When you have that time apart, you do your own thing, and when you're together, and we really reel it in. I thought, wow. And she meant it. It wasn't like this, phony little one-liner. It was really.
But you
and we
also
laughed.
said, "How do you do it?" And I told you, "How do you do
Yes,
it?"
yes.
Having a
She had
husband
a very sassy
every
answer.
single day of the week.
She was
Monday
feeling
through
sorry
Friday.
for me. She had the best, sassiest answer,
How
and I
are
loved her
you
from that moment.
coping?
Yeah, and I thought, when I
She
hung up,
gets her breaks from me.
she is so wonderful. I thought, she's right. Here I am asking her, how are you? And she's worried about me because I don't get break time. But it's so nice to also see the relationship this way, because I have a lot of friends, their husbands are not firefighters, but I do have a few friends in the corporate world and their husbands. And actually, I grew up with a dad who was traveling to China for business half the year. So some current friends who are in the thick of it, like you guys with kids that age, and their husbands have to travel for business. And it seems hard, but there is a silver lining because the mundane day-to-day, the 8 to 5 jobs, that has its complications too. You're constantly around each other, and it gets difficult as well. So I thought that was really cool that you really see the silver lining in all of this. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you.
Last question for Chris, kind of a logistical question. I found myself after this disaster buying a lot of flashlights on Amazon and random things. But somebody told me, or people are like saying, you should pack an emergency kit in your car, especially if you have kids. Yes, no, give me a little tidbit on this. As a mom, if it's just you just hit the door. But should we do that if we're a mom with kids?
I think you should always have a plan because, poor planning provides piss poor performance. I don't know if you've heard that, but I think you should have some kind of plan in place for, different types of things.
Okay.
You can't go overboard. You can't worry too much, too anxious about it.
Like, give me the
But
bare minimum.
I think that, number one, you should have all your documents protected and ready to go with you, or somehow protected in a safe place so that, you have your IDs, your passports, certificates, all that kind of stuff, the things that are necessary. And then, basically always have, some food and some emergency food supply.
Like prepackaged, like canned stuff is what you mean? Or
You could.
or contain, like water containers?
We bought a thing, I forgot like what it was exactly, but it's got nitrogen packed food. So it lasts for like, I don't know,
Costco.
10, 15 years or
They have
something.
them at Costco.
Okay,
So we
nitrogen,
got some-
and you put it in your garage or something?
We have it in a storage,
Okay.
just in case something happened. Like, during COVID, like maybe you couldn't get to the store and get food or something and
Okay.
they were closed or whatnot. But so you at least can survive for a few days. It's always good to have, a flashlight here or there or whatnot. But it all depends on what you find important in your home, like what you need to function. So identify, number one, what you need to function, and identify the types of maybe disasters you would be dealing with, say an earthquake or something like that, and have a plan. Can we shut off the gas? Can we have all these things planned so that you can, number one, protect your home, protect your kids, and protect, your livability. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to look different for everybody. Yeah. For us, I got a plan for us, even with these fires, I just made sure that our home was prepped as far as there's no trees next to our home. I cut them all down with a chainsaw and okay, we're not going to have any issue. And, so we're protected in that sense. But I think you just need to identify what's important to you to continue to, do what you do on a daily basis and then go from there. I wouldn't say you need to have this many batteries, this many flashlights, this much food. Everyone's different. Yeah. So I think it's just good to have a conversation, sit down, with Sergey and just sit there and be like, okay, well, what do we need if something happens? And make a checklist and then say, okay, well, let's put a pack together. When all this started, I said, there were fires kind of nearby, but not. I said, what, just go ahead and pack a bag with just a couple days worth of clothes. Mm-hmm. And we know we can go to my parents or her mom or wherever if we need
an emergency bag.
Emergency bag. But she can pack that in 5-10 minutes. So if anything's even remotely nearby, I just tell her, hey, pack the bag and just have it at the front door. So if you need to leave, you can leave. Right. And it's not a big deal. That way, if it does happen, you're ready to go. And if you don't, you just put the clothes back in the dresser and you're done, And so I think really comes back to what are your needs, and how you can continue to function on a daily basis.
Right. And these Los Angeles fires, I think, collectively made us realize that our safety is a blessing. It's a gift. It's a privilege. It's not always guaranteed, because none of us in California ever didn't see this coming. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, we got through it thanks to the firefighters and the firewives who held down the fort. Thank you so much for your time off. I know you don't have a lot of time off, and neither does Yadira because she's holding down the fort. But thanks, guys, for coming in and giving us a glimpse into what happened, your day-to-day life, and giving us tips and advice. And that it wraps up our episode.
Our
and
pleasure.
Yadira, I'll meet you right after so we can plan our next girls' cruise, okay? And we'll give you and Sergey the dates. Maybe you guys can start a daddy daycare.
Yeah, we'll just throw them all in a room together.
There'll be 7 kids.
We'll
Wow.
just have a window we can look through. A padded room.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
this
you.
was so much
it's
fun.
It's been a pleasure.
The honor is really mine, and you guys just picked up my call and ran with it. I really feel so humbled. I still don't know how to thank you, but thank you so much.
No, thank
you. That's a wrap. Dear listeners, if you like what you heard, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and follow me on my journey on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time.